I've actually watched a video from yours. You were talking about evidence-based design, and how do you incorporate your background with healthcare with your architecture?
Yeah, so for a long time in architecture profession or education, a lot of the design decisions were made based on experience. It's what we call the heuristic reasoning, right? Based on experience, based on best practice, based on what I know. So for a long time, there's a little research that's done in a design field, right, to actually measure the success of design. So evidence-based design essentially is to develop a more scientific approach towards design, to be able to quantify or measure the impact of your design on users' experience, on, for example, patient outcome, on staff outcome, and on operational outcome, right, your efficiency, etc. So to really be more rigorous about design decision making. So after we measure them, we use the evidence we gather through those research and feed back to the future design.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's diving deeper into just aesthetics, or it's based on functionality.
It's based on functionality. It's based on understanding of workflow, because different buildings might have different workflow. It's based on deeper understanding of environmental psychology and environmental behavior, because the environment actually affects how people behave or interact, right? For example, if you are in a crowded area, people actually tend to avoid the interaction. You're kind of forcing that space. You want to protect your personal bubble. So there's a lot of environmental psychology that also plays the role of how to design an environment that support better human experience and better outcome, especially health and well-being.
So like for here in Atlanta, does the cultural aspect go into like where you would place a building?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So I would probably answer from multiple angles. So I would say first, architecture field as a field is moving towards more rigorous approach towards design. So there are other, what I call research area that's also looking at better way to evaluate the building performance and make more informed design decisions. For example, sustainable design, right? How to make a design that's more responsive to the climate condition, the local climate condition. So you are siting your building properly, so you're actually not taking too much heat gain from certain direction. You're actually avoiding the winter wind, right? So there's a lot of design decision is informed by, for example, energy simulation, by performance evaluation afterwards. So that itself affect, right? For example, designing Atlanta will be definitely different compared to what you're going to design in Chicago, right? So the local climate absolutely play a role. And then culture is another dimension, right? Local culture, community culture, it's even beyond the city. You should also consider the community. Each community, each neighborhood might have a different sense of community, different identity, right? So depending on the users and the neighborhood that you're locating your building, you absolutely have to do much deeper dive to understand their true needs.
It might be a little off script, but here's the mandated questions I should tell you. Straight out of high school, could you describe your education background?
So from high school, I went to Southeast University, which is one of the top universities in China in terms of architecture education. And after that, I practiced as an architect in Shanghai before I decided to do a master in Singapore. So I moved to Singapore, did my master there, and then I got my master degree, worked at the National University of Singapore for 2 years as a research scientist, did a very interesting project with Professor Hin Jakian. And the project is about reconstructing the entire city, Chang'an city, in virtual reality in a cave environment.
Wow.
So we have a team of several student assistants, and I was a research associate at that time, kind of overseeing the development. So it was fascinating and also interesting to apply, what I learned in my undergrad, in my master's degree, in terms of the understanding of the history of Chinese architecture, Chinese cities, but turned into a digital world, right? Using the latest technology at that time, latest technology, virtual reality, to build that cave. So, and then after that, I came to Georgia Tech. So I did my PhD here. So that was almost 20 years ago. Graduated and then became a director of research for an architecture firm called RTKL, and also later become the chair for the Department of Architecture. And last year, I came back to Georgia Tech to lead the center here.
And how was your time in China and your education there helped you here in America? And how do you incorporate the cultural aspects there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think my undergrad in China, with the curriculum follow up was our art model. You can do your Google search later, but it's a very traditional architecture education training. And then midway, we also had some faculty from Switzerland came back to return to China and teach. So my education is kind of half, right? Half very traditional, half also very modern approach. So from that time, I'm already kind of intrigued by different approach towards design, because Beaux-Arts art is more form driven. Okay, and then the ETH group, that faculty group, they brought in more of a functionalism and more of a human-centered design approach. So that started to make me curious about the different design approach. And then obviously when I went to Singapore and then the US, I continued to be fascinated by the different culture and how does that shape the design. So when I started my research in healthcare, even though I was doing a lot of GRA work with my advisor, Craig Zimring, on design for intensive care unit in Emory, but I constantly got very intrigued by what are the similarities and what are the differences between the healthcare design in these two countries. So my dissertation actually in the end was about cross-culture comparison of the hospital design, particularly the inpatient design in US versus in China, but using various analytical tools to quantify that difference. So we call it making the invisible architecture visible, because culture is part of the invisible architecture, right? How do we really explain that beyond just using the symbol of culture? There is something that's more deeper embedded in the spatial configuration. So that's how I actually wrote my dissertation about. So great question.
What advice would you give me as someone interested in pursuing a career path in architecture?
Yeah, I think that first maybe I need to start with a question. Why do you want to study architecture? What are you passionate about?
I really like the cultural and design aspects of architecture, because I'm very into humanities. So I'm in designing and art and Legos, because every engineering or architecture student has Legos. So that's what really started my intrigue in it. But I like just the city and how people interact with buildings on a daily basis, the functionality of it, but then also the artistic side. Yes.
Experience side. Okay. I actually taught first year studio for 15 years in my life. Long time. I really enjoyed teaching first year student because I started to see the I guess different, even within architecture, different pathways student will take. And one important thing is about knowing yourself and also knowing your own passion, and also architecture, you know, to be an architect, you usually need to have a very wide range of tool sets and skill sets, right? You kind of pull it when you face, you know, deal with different projects, you put different tools. So develop your own strengths in terms of tools and skill set is very important. When I say tools and skill set, it's not just software. It's really about, for example, your own strengths in interacting with clients or potential users, right? So that communication skill is very important. Empathy is really important. Be able to listen and be able to understand and be able to relate to their experience instead of trying to impose your design idea. That's very important. I'm against a big A architect. I think architect should be serving the people, serving the users, because they are the one who will be stuck with the building that you design, right? If you just have a flamboyant form, that might not provide the true value to the people who are using the space. So in other words, I think my advice to you is to understand your true passion, understand your strengths, and then develop the skills and tool sets around it.
Okay, well, that's the end of my question.
Okay, yeah.
So, thank you.
I hope that is helpful for you. Okay.